Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to show you how to use the BIOS Flashback utility on your MSI Tomahawk Max 2 motherboard. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video I'm going to show you how to do a BIOS update using just a USB stick for your MSI Tomahawk B450 Max 2 motherboard. This is using the button on the back here, so there is a BIOS flashback button which you can use to flash the BIOS should you have a processor which is not supported. Now fortunately with the Max 2 version of the Tomahawk board, it does actually support the 3000 series processors out of the box with the original H0 BIOS. But sadly, if you're using a 5000 series processor such as the 5600G, 5600X, etc., then you will need to perform a BIOS update if for some reason the motherboard box does not have a Series 5000 ready sticker on it. So do check your motherboard box first of all. If it's got a 3000 ready sticker on it, then it means it's got the prior edition of the BIOS. If it's got a 5000 series ready BIOS, then you don't need to do this. You should be able to assemble the system and get it up and running straight away without the need to perform a BIOS flash. But for those of you who are still with us, then let's go through some of the items you're actually going to need to perform this update. So the first thing obviously is going to be your MSI motherboard and a suitable platform to lay it on once you're updating it. We're going to use the MSI motherboard box. You will also need a ATX power supply. You will also need possibly your I/O shield, so you can identify which is the BIOS flashback port on the back of the motherboard if you're not entirely sure. You can of course, if you want to, check from your MSI motherboard manual. It will be in there also, but it's quite easy just to look on here to see which one it is. You will also need a USB drive. This one is actually a SanDisk drive. I'll put some details on the screen now so you can see which one it is. This one I find to be particularly good and enables me to flash BIOSes on most motherboards, regardless of brand, MSI, Asus, ASRock, etc. This works particularly well. So if you want to grab yourself one of these before you do your BIOS flashback, check out the links in the video description and there'll be links to your local Amazon so you can pick up one of these from a local shop at a hopefully decent price. You will also need a computer which is up and running and connected to the internet so you can actually download the BIOS file, extract the file, then rename the file and then put it onto the USB drive ready to flash your motherboard. So with that said, let's head over to the computer now and I'll show you how to get it all started. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to head over to the MSI website to download our BIOS. So fire up a web browser and just type in Tomahawk Max 2. Links will be in the video description and just go to the MSI site, so msi.com, and just do a visual check, make sure it is the motherboard you're using. Make sure definitely the version is right. So this is the Max 2, not the Max 1 or the Max. So that is very important. Always make sure you've got the right BIOS for the particular motherboard, otherwise it just simply will not work. So what we want to do is head over to support, and we can in this section we can find out which BIOS revision we actually need in the compatibility section. So you can click on compatibility, click on CPU, find your particular processor from the list on the screen, and then on the end you'll see the result and it tells you which BIOS revision you need. So if you want to use a 5000 series processor such as the 5700G here, then you will need version H4. So the original BIOS release was H0, then there was H3 and there was an H4. So H4 is the minimum BIOS requirement for the 5000 series processors. There is an H5 and also an H6 BIOS available at the time of filming, but the H6 does have some problems with it, so we're going to avoid that one and we're just going to go straight with the H4. So in order to do that, let's go back up and we'll go into download. Head over into BIOS if it's not on it already. You can also get your drivers, utilities, etc. from here should you wish to. So these are the BIOS versions. So there's H6, there's H5, and there's H4. So this is the one designed for the 5000 series processors. So click on the down arrow, which is for downloads, and then it will open up a window. Your system may be slightly different. This is Windows 11, but Windows 10 and various others will be very similar. Download the file to somewhere you can find it. So we're going to download this to our desktop location and then we can minimize this window. We no longer need it. So now we've got our BIOS file on the desktop. The first thing to do is to extract the folder. This is really important so the BIOS is the right size. So right click or choose however you want to do it and we'll choose extract all. This is using Windows built-in extraction utility. It's also going to create a new folder. We're happy with that. Same location, so click on extract. and then it's going to show us our new folder and our new file. So what we need to do is to go into the folder. There's a text document which tells you how to perform the flash, and also there's our BIOS file. And make sure that the BIOS file is approximately 32 megabytes in size. This one's 32,000 kilobytes, so that's absolutely fine. So we need to actually rename the file. So at the top here, where it says see more, you want to choose options. And in view, we want to go down so that we can show hidden files, drives and folders. And also we want to see the extensions for known file types. So you can toggle that or toggle that off. We'll click apply. There we go. So we can see our hidden files. So now we want to rename this file. So in order to do that, just click on it. And we can delete everything which is there. And we're just going to call this MSI, then a full stop, then ROM. Now when we hit enter now, it's going to come up with a warning message. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It says here, if you want to change a file name extension, it may become unusable. This is for the Windows operating system, so we can ignore that because this is the correct file name for MSI's built-in operating system for flashing the BIOS. So are we sure we want to change it? Yes, we are. So there we go. We've got our folder called msi.rom. So now what we can do is right click on this file and we're going to choose copy. And then we're going to go down to our USB drive, which we haven't installed yet. So we're going to quickly plug in our USB drive. Now this one is empty anyway, but if you're not sure, you should always format the drive just to be on the safe side. So we're going to go to our USB drive down here. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to choose format. This is obviously assuming you do want to remove everything on the drive. Make sure this is set to FAT32. That is very important. So you will need a drive which is less than 32 gigabytes in size for it to allow the FAT32 formatting. Allocation size unit, you can use that if you want to. Default's probably fine. And also quick format. If there's anything in the volume label, I would suggest removing that. Sometimes that can cause some issues of the drive not being recognized or the file not being recognized. So once you're happy, click on start. You'll also get a message saying that it's going to erase all data. So we're okay with that, so we're going to click OK. And there we go, there is our format complete. So we can close that down. We've still got our MSI ROM saved in our clipboard. We right clicked, choose copy, go to our USB drive, right click and choose paste. Obviously you can cut and paste however you choose to. Just do make sure that your USB drive at the end does have a file size and also a ROM file. So the type is ROM file and the size is around 32 megabytes. So that's it, we're done on the computer now, so we can close down all these windows, eject our drive and go back over to our little workbench. Okay, so now we've got our BIOS file on our USB stick. We've also got our test bench set up, which is our box here. Got our power supply, got some power going to the power supply. We've got our I/O shield, so we can identify which one of the ports we need. So on this particular I/O shield, you can see there on the back, it's showing this port as being highlighted, which is the bottom one where your keyboard and mouse port is, or your old PS2 port is. So we can go ahead and we can stick that drive in straight away. We'll do that now. So there's the drive inserted. Now we need to power the motherboard. So in order to do that, we're going to need two connections, one of which is our EPS connector. So this is going to be your 4 or 8 pin connector. So make sure you grab that, and that's actually the PCI Express one. So make sure you do get the right one. So this is on this particular power supply is a 4 pin, but it's absolutely fine. So this is going to plug into the connection at the top of your motherboard here, where there's a 8 pin connection. You can use 8 or 4, like I said. So we go ahead and plug that one in first of all. And then the other one is your main power supply connector, which is going to be this one here. So this is your 24 pin or 20 pin connection. And we're going to go ahead and plug that into the motherboard port here, which is at the back, which is your main input for power. So make sure that's clicked in snugly, and that essentially is it. We are pretty much ready to go. All we need to do now is to press and hold the BIOS flashback button. I would suggest press it in for a couple of seconds at least, just to make sure it's going to do it. If you quickly blip it, it won't always do it, because there is like a safety mechanism, so that if it's accidentally pressed, it doesn't try and flash the BIOS whilst you're in Windows or whatever the case may be. So when you're ready, just press and hold the button here, the little BIOS flashback button, which you can see down that bottom corner. I'm going to hold it in for the count of 2. 1, 2. And then we can release it. After a short while of being very nervous, you'll see that it will gradually kick in. Sometimes it takes a little while, sometimes it might take longer than others. This is obviously specifically the Tomahawk Max 2. If your board is slightly different, then obviously it may take slightly longer, may take slightly less time. First thing you'll notice though, as I can see reflecting from the camera already, is we've got our BIOS flash LED there, which is clearly visible on this board, which is actually very helpful. So you'll find with the BIOS flashing, the BIOS LED will flash at a certain speed. That is when it's actually activating the program itself. At the next point, it will flash at a different speed, either slightly faster or slightly slower. That is when it's actually reading the contents of your drive. Once it's done that, it will then change the speed again, and it will change to either again slower or faster, and then that will be actually programming your BIOS. At any stage of this process, whilst the LED is flashing, do not remove the power or unplug anything. The only reason I would say to do that is if it's been left on for maybe 10-15 minutes or so and it's not working clearly, then something is wrong, you need to start again. But otherwise, whenever the BIOS LED is flashing, leave the system alone, let it do its own thing. Another pointer, if you're getting to the point where you've actually not got to this point, so it's flashing either 3, 4 or 5 times and then stopping, generally what that means is that the system cannot read the contents of the drive or the physical drive itself. At which point, what you're going to need to do is to get either another USB stick, perhaps potentially an older one or just a different drive altogether, or maybe perhaps even try formatting it again, or use a tool such as Rufus to completely format the drive, or potentially even use a slightly older command like fdisk in Windows and actually erase all partitions on the drive and then reformat it. Sometimes that can be an issue. Obviously your mileage may vary. Now I can just about see in the reflection that the BIOS LED light is now speeded up, so we are now flashing faster. So that means that we are into the next process of the actual BIOS flash. So this normally will take somewhere in the region of about 5 to 6 minutes. A slightly daunting time for the entire process, but yeah, just be careful. Don't touch or nudge the system if you can help it. If you've got animals, pets, brothers, sisters, siblings, etc., just keep everybody away, just let it do its own thing. You can, if for some reason you brick the motherboard, there is always the possibility you can actually use this process to get the system back up and running again. Now I've done this before now, where I've actually started doing a BIOS flash and deliberately remove the power. Now clearly I'm not recommending you do this, that is generally a bad idea, don't do it. But if for some reason it's gone wrong, because of the way the MSI BIOS flash works, as long as the BIOS flash routine itself is still intact, which it should be because this doesn't affect it, you should be able to just rerun the BIOS flash over an existing or a bad flash. So yeah, don't panic. If things do go wrong, it isn't the end of the world. And obviously if it is a brand new motherboard, then potentially you're still under warranty. Although whether or not a failed BIOS flash is under warranty, that is going to be down to the individual retailer. So anyway, that is still flashing, so I'm going to let it carry on and do its thing. And what we're waiting for now is again for the BIOS LED to flash at a different speed. So now it's currently flashing quite quickly, so we're going to wait for that to flash a little bit slower, which is going to be towards the end of the process. And what we're ultimately looking for is for the system to shut down as if it's rebooting itself. Now at the moment we have got the CPU LED on, that is on, and this particular board has got some LEDs on the bottom which are illuminated, and as you can probably see, the fan is spinning on my power supply. Depending on your particular power supply, you may find that the actual fan does not spin up, indicating that something is happening. Now don't be too concerned about that, as long as the rest of the system is doing what it is supposed to be doing, i.e. the LED flashing or other LEDs or RGBs actually on the motherboard illuminating. But again, just be patient, let it go through its thing, and we'll come back when it's actually stopped. Now actually, looking in the reflection, it does appear, it might just be me, but I do believe that that is actually flashing a little bit slower now. So hopefully this is now entering the third part of the BIOS flash part, and looking on the actual clock here, we're looking like we're about 4.5 minutes in. So to my estimation, we should have about another minute's worth of time left before this completes and then goes through its shutdown and restart. So we're just going to wait for that to happen, unfortunately. A little bit nerve-wracking. I never like doing this. Although I've done it many, many times, it is always still a little bit intimidating whether or not it's actually going to work. And like a lot of you out there at the moment probably watching this video and thinking, I need to do this on my motherboard. It's a lot of money invested into a motherboard. It's one of your primary components, and obviously if something goes wrong, it's expensive, and also you've got the hassle of potentially returning it or having to watch videos like this so you can recover it. Anyway, I am filling time now and it's still going, so I may just fast forward through this and we'll be back when it starts doing something, or at least when the process is finished. In actual fact, this is probably a good time if you are following along this video and you're waiting for your motherboard to actually do its thing and you're watching this as the process is happening on your own board. This is probably a great time to head over to the subscribe button, click on that, and obviously do click on the chime icon if you want to see regular content like this in your inbox. Also, if you want to, if you're struggling with this and it's just not working for you, we do have an excellent Discord chat. You're more than welcome to join that. We have a tech chat section and a BIOS support section, so you can post your comments and questions in there should you be struggling to get your board to work. Now that goes across the board, whether it's MSI, Asus, ASRock, etc., whatever your board is, Gigabyte, BioStar, no doubt there's others as well. But yeah, if you're having issues with BIOS flashes or actually any issue with your PC at all, feel free to join us in the chat there. And I'm still trying to fill time. And there we go. You can just see the BIOS LED went out and the system has shut down. All of our LEDs have gone off. The fan did stop spinning there briefly and the system is now rebooted. So obviously because the system is now rebooted, there isn't a CPU attached. We don't have any memory and we don't have a graphics card, because they do recommend you do it in this particular fashion. So obviously now when we try and boot up, our CPU LED is illuminated there to say, what the hell's going on? There's no CPU in this system, I can't boot. So this is absolutely fine. At this point now, you can actually turn the system off, or if you want to, just pull the power. This power supply doesn't have a switch, so unfortunately I'm gonna just have to turn it off by there. You can do it however you want to. But that is the board flash, so that has the BIOS done and dusted. Now there are some other things I would say, obviously if you've got through to this part in the video, there are some other things now. There's a lot of people that ask the same question, do I have to do it with my motherboard stripped down like this? Well, the honest answer is no, you don't. But for me personally, I believe that it actually removes any other potential problems that the system could have. There could be other things which are connected, such as your front panel I/O, USB ports, RAM even. There could be something that is not right with any of those. So in order to rule out any of those individual components stopping the BIOS from flashing, my advice is to do this first of all before you start building, if you possibly can. If, for instance, you have built your entire system and maybe you're gone all out and you've got a custom loop, obviously that is going to be very difficult to do. You don't want to take it all apart. So in which case, if you have got a custom loop or there's components that you just cannot remove as much as you possibly can. So for instance, removing RAM is a relatively straightforward thing to do. So definitely remove the RAM. If you can remove the graphics card, generally that's going to be a relatively straightforward thing to do. If you're still getting problems when you've removed the RAM and the graphics card, maybe you want to think about disconnecting some of your front I/O panel sections. That could be useful. And ultimately, if you're still getting stuck, then I would definitely suggest removing the CPU just in case. There could be something actually wrong with that, in which case the BIOS flash isn't going to work because it's shorting the motherboard or preventing the BIOS flash from starting. So hopefully that has cleared up a few questions and comments that we've been getting. Again, this is specifically for this particular motherboard, but some of the advice towards the end there I think applies to pretty much all manufacturers, whether it's MSI, Gigabyte, etc. The same applies. So removing as much as possible from the system is going to be helpful, especially if you're having problems, because it's going to help the diagnostic process. And certainly if you come over to the Discord chat and you are having problems, one of the first things I'm probably going to ask you is, have you stripped down the system yet and tried it like that? That is going to be one of the first things. So ideally, if you can, do it straight away. If not, yeah, do whatever. You can as well. Another question that I often get asked is, can you downgrade the BIOS? Now that is actually what we've done on here, because the BIOS on this one was H5. I know that because I've already booted the system up to make sure that it works. So we have actually gone ahead and downgraded from H5 to H4, and we will be doing another video later on using MSI's M Flash to upgrade it back to H5. Slightly around the houses, but we'll get there in the end. Anyway, hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has, don't forget to smash the like button. I'm sorry it's been a really long video, but there are so many different things to cover, and obviously the BIOS flash takes 6 minutes anyway, so yeah, we did kind of have to wait for that. I wanted to do it as much as possible in real time so you can see exactly what happens. Again, any comments or questions, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. Obviously, if it's a priority thing and you need to get things done quickly, do join our Discord. There's somebody on there pretty much 24/7. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.